last of the thing that I said before I said going live. So we're live. Worldwide Stock Car Chat number 240. I'm your host, Greg Galby. Gang's all here with Luff and Mike and people. Let's talk slot cars. Anybody got any show and tell they want to show off, share, brag about, tease, distract with? Phil, you got something?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about vintage controllers, and I came across this during my clean out.
Wow.
It's a very early transistorized controller made by Harwood Electronics in Sydney in about 1966. And I think it's one of the earliest production electronic controllers that I ever come across out of my collection. And I just thought some of the guys might like to see it. Yeah.
I love the drawing on it, on the actual, I guess, transistorized bit in the front.
You like that?
What's the
picture?
It's
awesome.
Yeah. Plastic bicycle grip.
Plastic bicycle grip. Yeah, it's pretty basic, but some of the commercial tracks use them because they're almost indestructible. And I brought a couple of them to use. And I had a little bit of a problem with the first one I've got two still. It didn't seem to have enough voltage, and I realised I had the voltage drop across the transistor still. So the other one's been modified to put a full power switch on it. Yeah, but I just thought it was interesting after the discussion the other week about it. Yeah.
Is
that a potentiometer then, the round thing?
Pardon?
It is a transistor, not a potentiometer, the round piece.
No, there's a transistor there.
Transistor.
And down inside this handle is just a wire wound resistor with a wiper on it, similar to a basic controller from around that period. Yeah. And it just controls the base of the transistor to give you the voltage variation. So
yes.
Yeah. But it's one of I can't find any earlier transistor controllers than these, so just thought it was interesting to have a look at. Thank you. That's all I've got anyhow.
Nice. Greg's hosting but muted.
Billy me.
So
I was saying that Dewan will find that wondrous and amazing. And then I was introducing Luff. What would you like to share?
I was talking to Mike earlier about setting up a track for the local Porsche club. This a couple of years ago, but I found a picture. Let's see if this works. Is that showing up?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a track I set up at the hotel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's kind of based on the Vancouver Indy track.
Uh-huh. Neat.
And it's wooden, isn't it? It's a proper copper tape track, isn't it?
Luff doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Anyway.
How do you transport a thing like that then?
Sorry?
How many pieces do you transport that in?
It's 3 4x8s.
Okay.
And it just bolts together.
Yeah.
Neat.
There and there.
Yeah, it was fun. But could only get about 30 of the guys to try it.
Huh.
Everybody was staring at it, but they didn't want to look stupid, I think. Anyway, that's it for me. How do I get out of this?
I'll take care of it for you.
Sorry? Okay, thank you.
I got you. All right. Always nice to see a Luff track. All right, Mr. Young, what you got?
Well, I took advantage of Electric Dreams Black Friday sale and picked up a couple of cars. One of them was this one.
Yeah.
Well, guaranteed you're going to drive that better, Don, than the actual driver.
Well, what I thought was interesting about it is on the website, they stated that was Lance Stroll's livery. but nowhere on the car or anywhere on the box is his name.
It's a good thing.
That's what I
Yeah, yeah.
thought.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Trust me.
They didn't have to discount it so much then.
Well, not only that, I mean, that even in 1/32 scale, that guy can't drive a nail.
And
Does it have his race number on there?
18,
Well, I still can't answer the question because I'm not sure what his number is.
yeah, 18
What brand is it?
Sorry?
NSR.
Yeah, so not licensed for sure.
Yeah.
Then now the one I got was this one.
Ooh, stole my thunder.
Lance Stroll's race number is number 18, according to Google.
Yeah, they probably couldn't trademark that.
And then this is the other one.
Nice.
Is that the Revo slot?
Yes.
Yeah.
You got that, Greg?
Mm-hmm.
It's the only Corvette that's ever tempted me.
But
Is it
that's
a-
all I got.
Great
Okay,
car.
I gotta ask Greg, if you have it, if you don't have that car, are you getting it?
Wayne just asked, and my response was, "Yup."
Oh, sorry, I missed it. I'm sorry. I was so excited for you. I'm sorry.
It was an American two-tone noise, so I fully understand you're not getting it.
Yeah. I have not yet ordered the Revo slot Group 2 Alpha. I forget the name of the livery, but it's blue and yellow. I don't know. It looks great.
Greg, not
Yes, sir.
Greg. Sorry, Don. You're I see a Corvair body. It looks to me like is that a Corvair body on your track? The white,
No,
white one?
that's Chevy Bel Air.
Ah, okay. 62.
All right. Well, new cars is always good, and those are good new cars. Thank you for sharing, sir. Moving on. Looks like Jeremy's got something. What you got, sir?
I have some craft commercialism. Somebody
please.
popped me up a message and asked me if I would do Scale Electric's car of tomorrow, which I assume there's at least 3 people out there that own one. And then I was looking through my thing and I realized, oh, I do have one, but my wing is broke. I was like, well, good thing he contacted me. So anyway, I started making wings for, flexible wings for cars of tomorrow for the people who still actually drive them. I don't know if anybody still drives them.
Nice. Yeah, I got some of those.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think many people drive them. There was only a brief period. There was like 5-6 years, and then they were gone.
Yeah, they're in a drawer.
Yep.
I think now it's official. You're a wingman.
You can be my wingman anytime.
Hi, hungry. I'm dad. All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Does anybody else got any show and tell they want to share? Mike, what you got?
Well, I actually had these last week, but Don stole my thunder because I got one of these. Well, mine has a blue chassis. I changed it to the softer chassis. I'm going to see how that goes. That's my next foray into oxygen Formula One.
Mm.
And then, of course, I had to get this is the 4th slotted or Polycar F1 with that setup. And then because I couldn't resist these, they're so cheap,
Mm-hmm.
the Maserati and the blue. So eventually, as they come out with more colors, I will have a full complement for all of us to do at IROC.
How much are those going for these days?
$33.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap.
There's a wing for you. Yeah, that's a wing.
That's a wing.
And those will probably break because they're magnet cars.
Well, actually, this one isn't.
Did you
The
take it
magnet
out?
comes out.
But you took
So-
it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All righty.
Oh, wait. I do have something else. Hang on a second. My wife picked these up.
Oh, fairy lights.
Yeah. They're battery operated, but I'm going to switch them over to USB and put them around the track so I can, and it does come on solid. So I can run maybe at low light night, because it's really dark in here. There's no windows, and you won't be able to see a thing if it's dark in here except the cars, which is cool on one level, but not so cool on the other.
Yeah.
Have you even tried that, Mike?
Pardon me?
Have you even tried that, running a car with lights in complete darkness?
No, I have not.
You should try it.
It's not as hard as you'd think it would be, and in fact, a lot of people drive better in the dark because they're being more cautious, right? So they actually end up driving better. You want a challenge though? Find a strobe light.
Well, I have one actually. The one that Jeremy made for me, is made into kind of a strobe light. Oh my God!
A nice bright strobe light will make it very challenging to try.
I think wouldn't you be inducing seizures?
Only if you're susceptible.
Yeah.
My son built a strobe light for one of his electronics class projects in high school, and we tried that once. It's an experience. Unfortunately, it does not film very well, so I uploaded it, but it just doesn't come through on video very much at all.
So what is it like, Greg? What do you see? A line of your own car?
In real life?
Yeah, I imagine you see a line of your own car.
In real life, it's your car is stuttering around the track.
Yeah,
because you only see the car when it flashes. So your car's going boop 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 boop. So judging braking zones is nearly impossible. So you're basically just find a good throttle position for the entire track and maybe speed up down the long straight a little bit. But it's like what happens when you're doing the clap thing in a strobe light. It looks slow because you're only seeing your hand go like that, right? Yeah. So a car going around the track is going do 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 do.
Jeez.
Try it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll have to break out my inner Geo and put some lights in some of my cars, and
there you go.
And see how that works. But I want to get everything else figured out first. I've got 2 race management systems to figure out the problems with before I can even think about doing that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, you probably got some Scalextric cars hanging around somewhere.
Oh yeah, I do plenty.
Don't those Polycar Maseratis have lights?
They have lights in the front, but not in the back. So there is that. Yeah, that may be my first attempt with that, just to see, because for one thing, they're nearly indestructible. And for the second thing, they're cheap and easily replaceable if something does get broken. So I'm not too worried about that. But come on, Polycar, we need more colors.
Yeah.
I think they only have the red, blue, and black so far. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking for the gold and the turquoise, and I could paint them up a little bit if I wanted to, I suppose, to change them. But the less has to be done, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
So, but
you want to whether or not they're going to produce one of those in silver?
I would expect. I mean, they produced the silver one and the other ones, but they're this kind of metallic foil paint job. It's not really a metallic paint, but it's
like a chromy paint, isn't it?
It's kind of chromy,
Yeah. The one I found was silver.
It may have a sort of a chrome silver base, and then they put a clear coat in various colors over the top of it.
Yeah. I don't know. Whatever. I like them. They go reasonably well, and the nice thing is they've got a place for clipping the chip in real easily. So it's easily compatible there. And I'm not a real fan of the guide, but can't have everything for cheap,
And it's a Maserati. Hey.
Yeah. I could have my own Grand Trofeo series. They are actually, I don't know if anybody else knows this, but there's a difference between the GT3 and the GT4s. And the difference is, if you look at the tail end, the GT4 has the chassis come straight across on the bottom with that insert portion that's black in this as a piece of the body, not the chassis. And all of these, the GT4 and in the Maseratis and this chassis are compatible. So if you do want to decide to change the chassis on these, you can just, swap it out and put a pod assembly in it if you want. So, but it has to be the GT4, not the GT3.
What do you make of the way the rear wing is? How is the rear wing done, Mike? Does it look like a breaker offer or what?
Is it like a what?
A breaker offer. I just made it up.
It's the mounts are relatively thin. So yeah, it could be, a little bit fragile, but I don't think any more than any other kind. Truthfully, the biggest problem I have with wings is getting them snagged on the Armco barrier things that go on the outside of scale extra track. You come into the corner and you punch it a little bit early and it swings out wide, and the wing catches the top edge of the guardrail and will snag that way sometimes, and that does a lot of damage. So I'm converting most of my stuff to there's one guy that Charles R did some foam on the outside. I'm going to convert those to safer type barriers where they're solid with a foam edge on it. The only problem with the foam, of course, that snags fairly easily too, and is not the best as far as I'm concerned. But we'll see
Over time.
Yeah,
I'm very surprised that you actually keep the barriers on, because our experience with digital racing on scale electric with borders was that if a car deslotted and made it to the barriers, which it almost always would, but if it did it in a gentle enough way, it would bounce back into the track, not into the slot, but into the track. And it would be right there for everyone else to hit. And so to prevent that from being a problem, as in broken cars, etc., we just took the barriers away. And then the car would go off and be out of the way of the track. And
part of the problem is, of course, that there's a couple places where if they go off, they go onto the bottom portion of the track, especially on the hill going up to my, what would be the west side of the track. So that's the reason I keep them there. And that's where they most snag is, I don't know if you're familiar with my track, there's a part where the back semi-straight of it has the kink in it.
Yeah.
It's the kink that goes down instead of up like the real track. And that's where most of the snagging happens. The rest of it, there's a couple other places, but yeah, I'm going to figure out some way to keep them. The biggest problem, of course, is if you have one that comes across when the cars go in the opposite direction, two cars go in the opposite direction, and you don't have any barrier at all. I'd rather have it sit in the middle of the track than go across the other side and do a head-on. So
you see the Derby Club that uses Carrera Digital for club night competitive racing, they have L-shaped barriers that must be 2.5 inches along the foot and 2.5 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
They strategically attach those to the tabletops. So the effort there is to keep them on the table, but not keep them on the track.
Yeah.
So that when they crash clear.
Yeah. All of the outside turns that I have had the barriers removed.
Yeah.
So it's only on the inside turns that I have barriers on them. And moving them back even just to the edge of where the Scalextric borders are, is often enough to prevent the problem. So I'm going to see.
We would never put the barriers on the track. It would always be put barriers on borders, but even that was too close to stop the borders weren't deep enough to get the car away from
Right.
the outermost slot in particular, and often the car would bounce off the barriers and block both slots. So we eradicated wherever we could, and we just did the same thing that we'd seen being done elsewhere: keep the cars on the table if possible, but not on the. And it's cheaper, of course. You don't need to buy as many barriers.
Yeah. Well, you could extend the barriers on that.
You could go taller with the ones you've already got if you really wanted to.
Well, not so much taller, but wider, so that if the car goes full sideways, it doesn't hit the barrier. You could do that with gluing on a piece of the same thickness of cardboard or something like that. Because by the time the guy gets that far out, the traction is not an issue anymore.
Yeah.
It's just trying to get it to stop flying somewhere is all.
We had other solutions. We tried a set of circumstances where we got some sticky back abrasive paper.
Uh-huh.
And on the outside, the very outside, I don't know, half inch, maybe, about half inch of the border, we would stick a strip of abrasive paper. And when the cars got out that far, this is without the barrier on, because the wings or the body shell would have hit the barrier long before the tire gets to that part of the border. But now the barriers are gone, the tires would go all the way to the edge of the border, pick up this abrasive paper, and drive back onto the track.
That's a good idea.
It is a good idea, but only in idea world, because in practice, what we found was the most aggressive drivers would wear their tires away really, really quickly.
Oh.
And I mean, when they have the incidents that put the cars all that far out.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was green abrasive, so it looked like grass in a way, to some extent. But it really, there were people that come into the end of an endurance race, and we would look at what the tire that had been clipping that area again and again, because they just had the habit of sticking the tail out there, and it would kind of forgive them. They would kind of get away with it, and so they continued doing it, and then eventually you look at their tires and they're like, oh gosh, that's shot.
Yeah, the law of unintended consequences rears.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. Yeah, it still worked. It worked. It did what we wanted it to do, but it had unintended consequences, and those were they.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled some of the fences off of my track, but it's so dense that there aren't a lot of places that I can remove the fences and not have the car blocked by another fence. And I can't remove all the fences, because then the car would definitely just go from where it's at on the track to another place on the track, not off the track, just to block a different area. So it is what it is. You deal with it.
Yep.
All right, Garth, what would you like to share today, sir?
Garth, you're still on mute.
I clicked the ask to unmute button, but he's got to actually click the unmute himself.
Yeah.
It's a Maserati on one of his tables. Yeah, there we go.
This is what Mike was showing, one of those Maseratis. This Jeremy gave me this body and chassis a couple of months ago, and I put some SLS wheels and a motor pod on it. And then for the Black Friday thing, I ordered one of these as its mate. Okay.
Cool.
Which is the exact same car, but it's and so I'm gonna put different wheels on it and put a rotating tube pod on it, and then we'll have two IROC cars. So that's my once a year slot car purchase.
Cool.
Great looking car. Alrighty, moving on. Does anybody else have anything they want to show or tell? I saw Bob had popped up momentarily. Guess maybe he reconsidered. Okay, moving on to Club Corner. Anybody got any past, present, or future racing to talk about? Anybody do the digital racing this past weekend? I saw Alan was on here a minute ago too.
He is here.
He's still there, yeah.
Yep.
Alan, what are you hiding for? He's probably grabbing a pint. Bob, did you want to share something?
They're a drinking team with a slot car habit.
You're muted, dude. You're just saying hi. Okay, hi, Bob. Oh, your mic isn't working again. Dang it. Oh well. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, we did oxygen again this week. Let's see.
Let's skip the headaches this time.
Yeah, I figured, let's do all slotted Formula Ones because they have all the correct stuff in there that you can just clip in the oxygen chip and mount it in the hole that it's designed for, and should be no problem. There should be. We had Ratby, for some reason, Ratby's yellow car was the worst. He had 14 short laps, and in nothing flat, he had a 5-lap lead. I mean, it was just crazy. And I kept track of mine. I think I got 2, but I can show you. I think I can share this. Oh God, there we go. Let's share photos. Let's hope I got this right one. Looks like I've only got the one up, but hopefully that's the right one. Let's see. Okay. And of course, here, now it shows it. Now you can see on this one we had two short laps for, well, actually all 4 of us had short laps there in the first race. And oh God, I can't remember what was the first race. Anyway, the second race was Formula Ones, and that was terrible. We had, short laps all over the place. I remember we had Revo slots for the first race, and I had the new. I don't know. You guys remember? I had the Lister Storm. That was its inaugural race, and it was up against the GT1s, which are the Porsche GT1 Revo slots. There's one yellow one, and I've got a blue coral one. And then the other one was the Mercedes. And the Mercedes CLK was buying far and away the fastest. And this is the result from that race. And you can see we had, myriad hot, fast laps on it, for anywhere from 2.9 to 2.3 in there.
Does your software have a minimum lap time feature, Mike?
Pardon me?
Does your software have a minimum lap time feature?
Yes. Yeah, RCSO2 has that. Didn't make any difference.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to try the project with trying to eliminate the magnetic field from the lap counters, or the lane changers rather, and see what happens there, and try out and see if it actually is the lane changer that's causing the problem, and look into it further so we have less trouble with that. If I could find some way to insulate those that they don't have a magnetic field, we should be able to manage that. So
Hey, Mike, I got something for you to think about. I'm always bugging you because you got your laptop sitting on top of the track, and it looks like a sloppy desk, on the videos.
Yeah.
I wonder have you ever thought about the fact that laptop's got a lot of electronic shit in it? Okay, and it's sitting right there on the track, right next to all your lane changers, and magnetic, this, that, and the other things, you know? I mean, I don't know, but,
I don't think it's in proximity enough. It's not close enough. It's a solid 2.5 feet away from the any of the lane changers. So I don't think the magnetic pull on something like that is so small that I don't think it would affect the Hall sensors at all. Because if I raise the Hall sensor up even 3 millimeters, it will not read the laps. So,
well, magnetic fields, okay, are like cancer. They don't really follow any rules.
true enough.
So I don't know, it's just something, maybe you could just move it and try, see what,
So
do something crazy.
You run oxygen 3.
Yeah.
And you're using the latest versions of the firmwares for all the components, I presume.
I was using 317A.
Yeah. And this is because you've got some SCP2s in the system.
Well, I've got SCP2s. I've got one SCP2 mine, and oxygen RSO2 doesn't run on oxygen 4.
Okay.
I think it's going to be in the works, maybe.
Kind of needs to be, really.
Yeah, but we'll see. It's a whole different ball game for them to do that, and so I'm sort of dependent on that.
And were you
In the
aware
meantime, I still have to get.
Oxygen 4 works on an SCP2?
What's that?
I just became aware through a forum post yesterday, I think, that Maurizio put on that the latest versions of Oxygen 4 are now compatible with have been released, I should say, for compatibility with the digital cartridge in the SCP2.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, there were already versions of 4 that would run on SCP2s, but so it sounds to me like the only barrier for you moving to Oxygen 4 is the race management system.
Yeah, I could do that, but I lose the fueling, which is really what makes it different to me. To lose the fueling in the damage portion of it would.
So those are the only bits that won't work with Oxygen 4. Is that the case?
Yeah.
No, the race control system 64 does not support Oxygen 4 at all. He wants to use race control system, O2, RCS O2.
Yeah.
He wants to use that. It does not support Oxygen 4 of any kind. Any parts of Oxygen 4, it does not support it.
Yeah.
And he wants to use that program because it has the features he likes. No other program has the features that he likes.
Possibly PC lap counter, but I'm still fighting with the guy to get my key.
Yeah. PC lap counter has basic fueling and penalties and stuff. Like I played with D-slot penalties. You come off the track, gives you a penalty. You got to pull into the pit lane and stop and go for a user-defined number of seconds. It worked, but it's not the same as what RCSO2 does.
Yeah. The things that are attracting me to RCSO2 are the fuel changes as the speed of the car changes with the fueling, and you can adjust that anywhere you want, which is really nice because you can tailor the car's balance of performance that way. It's fairly easy. You can change the tank size and the amount of
burn rate
that's spent in the low power ranges with a simple numerical calculation change. And the other part of it is that it really is kind of cool, and it has changed the way we race a little bit, is the fact that damage points reduce the power to the car. So you fly off the track, you get a penalty in power in the car. And sometimes in the heat of the race, you have to decide, okay, am I going to be fast enough to win this thing in low power, if it's late in the race or something like that, or take the penalty of going for a pit stop. So it changes strategic things, and I find the strategic part of it really interesting. I mean, it changes the way slot racing is done, basically. It's not just fastest guy with the most laps wins, but the fastest guy who's smartest. Doesn't have to be the fastest car, doesn't have to be fastest driver, but he has to be the smartest in implementing the tools that he has, and that kind of interests me. So anyway, we still had a good time.
Yeah.
I haven't put the videos up yet. I've been too busy, but I will do that probably either tonight or tomorrow morning. So we'll see. I still got garage cleaning to do. I've got the PCA members that are in this area are coming over Saturday morning, and I'm gonna film that too. We'll see how it goes. Introduce a bunch of newbies that have never seen slot cars before, but are car guys, so it should be interesting. Hopefully, I'll be able to pick up some people who will either regularly or occasionally stop by and run some cars.
Good luck.
That's all for me.
All right. Looks like Bob got his mic working. What you got, Bob?
I did. I had it muted. I didn't realize it. So a group of us likes to run the Polycar Classic Formula Ones and the modern Formula Ones. And recently I had bought one of the Monopostos, and it was a Gen 2 that has the new style chassis that will accept the flat 6 motor. What was interesting about this was disassembling the gearbox. Took a little thought to figure out how the parts came apart and what sequence. But then I had trouble getting the gear mesh. So when I first put the motor in there, even though I thought I had the bevel pinion in the right place, it locked up the gears. Well, I went back to the latest video from Maurizio about the, the 2022 or 2024 Formula One car. And they have shims that go between the motor mount and the face of the motor to fine tune that pinion to crown gear position. Unfortunately, when I bought these parts from Slot Car Corner, they only had the pinion, which has the aluminum collar for strength, and of course the motor mount. And the little shims, which are similar to all the other photo etch shims, I guess haven't been released yet. So I had to keep taking the motor out and moving it like a thousandth of an inch to finally get the mesh where the gears would turn. So if you're going to do that, pay attention to that. But we haven't run the car yet, but overall it looks good, and it should be more competitive with the NSR and the Scale Auto modern Formula One cars. So there you have it.
Cool. Good to know. I don't have one of those cars, so if I ever get one, I'll remember that.
Okay.
I'm presuming that the boxed cars will be sent with the shims.
It's an after purchase motor change.
Yeah, this was an after purchase, and but there's shims that go right. It's really hard to do this, but they go right between the mount there. You can
the motor forward in the car, don't they? I guess.
Yeah. It goes right there right between the black mount and the face of the motor. Kind of like if you have a Revo slot, the shims they have in there, same principle. But the new car will come stock with the flat 6 motor. The new 2022, which is a totally redesigned chassis, body, and everything. And it's in Maurizio's latest video. So
yes, yeah.
But anyways,
but
I bought the car. And it was kind of slow compared to the NSR and the Scale Auto F1 cars. And we have a pretty good group that races these analogs, so they're quite a bit of fun.
So you basically do motor and gear ratio parity between the slotted and the Scale Auto and stuff?
Yes. Yeah. And there's 3 new gear ratios that have come available. And it's a 2-part change. So you have to change the intermediate gear and the axle with the spur gear to, because of course they change diameter. But it's really nice because it keeps the car nice and scale, because the body covers all that. And it just makes for a nicer appearance, you know. So it's a nice setup as compared to the Scale Auto and the NSR Formula One cars. So
That with the big bump.
yep, exactly. Yep, very nice.
All right. Thank you for sharing, sir.
Yep.
Looks like Dewan has something. What you got, Mr. Clark?
Okay, I was gonna discuss a little bit about our Far Out Club past weekend. Sorry, I got something in my throat here. This weekend we had the team race, and it was over at Far Out Raceway at Stephen Farr Jones's place. And let's see if I can get this shared on. I think I got it. Yeah. So anyhow, we had 16 racers, and it's a 4 lanes. So we split up to 4 drivers per team. And it was similar to what Jeremy was talking about a couple of weeks, well, last week or a couple of weeks ago anyway, when he was asking about the makeup of how the team just selected a team race like this. But you know, so they put the highest ranked drivers into as like team captains, and then they go and assign the lower ranked drivers to try to even out the teams out, you know, so they distribute up to the teams, so it's pretty even. And then we race all 4 lanes, 44 minutes per lane, 11 minutes per driver. And it was really nice. We had some unique cars, the car tricks, I guess this was pronounced, F1s. I actually made a video, or I tried to do a video recording of the entire race, but it was my first time using this camera and actually ran out of battery at after 2 lanes of so about half the race is on the video, and I posted that on it's a link on Facebook, dropped this Far Out Club group. But anyway, we these are the teams, and the winning, well, let's see, I can't, for some reason I can't even read, but I know we finished 4th. We're the B team, and I cannot see the total.
I can't see the white column on the, not quite that far, a bit left.
Yeah, it's
you got 1196 laps, and the winning team got 1231.
Yeah. Okay, because our kids, and I actually had eye surgery about a week ago, so this was part of my problem. Yeah, so yeah, you can see we finished last. But it was the cars. Everyone had the same opportunity. There was a lot of disparity in the different cars in the different lanes. The white lane was clearly much faster than all the other lanes, and the red lane was the slowest. But anyway, so but it worked out. It was a lot of fun. Again, it's been 11 minutes on each lane, so that's 44 minutes of racing. But that made it a lot of fun coming up for that.
So what's it total up to about 3 hours there?
Yeah, better part of 3 hours. And like I said, I kind of underestimated the battery power of my camera, so we only got the first hour and a half, hour and 50 minutes is what it ended up recording.
And how long is a lap typically?
The lap times were between 7. Well, actually, we had some people get a little bit under 7 minutes per lap, seconds per lap. 6.8 to, but the average was probably in the 7.5s.
Yeah.
7.5s. Yeah. And well, let me see what do we have here. I think we do have the that matrix is too complex. I won't try to explain that. But this is the overall standings of everyone, their performance in the team races, and the person that ranked the highest for the whole series of 4 team races was Walter Bain. So he basically won the team championship by being on the more winning teams and accumulating more points for the team racing than anything. So, kind of summary. And finally, I'm gonna make a strong attempt of bare minimum recording all of our races for the Far Out Club races that I attend, and also potentially get into live streaming them. I have a lot of live streaming equipment left over from my days with the bowling services, and a lot of the equipment they have at Electric Dreams. I have the same thing, a 6-camera setup, everything, but that's not practical for me to move down every single time we have a race. So I'll see what I can do. And that's about it.
You could just do it. You could just do what Russ does. He just puts his GoPro up in a good vantage point that sees the whole track.
Exactly what I did. So if you look at I did have the video posted. It's on my YouTube channel, but it's a link off the Far Out Club's Facebook page. But you'll see that I had I got a new DJI Pocket 3 gimbal camera. And
yeah, Russ usually tries to find an outlet somewhere to plug the camera in because it won't last the whole night.
I will be doing that next. You learn.
Yeah. And you can live if you depending on how the device works. Like if you use your cell phone, put a power source on your cell phone, you can live stream from your cell phone.
And this has a direct live stream coming from the Pocket 3 has a live stream feature directly from that, and it uses the local Wi-Fi as me. You have to start it with your phone.
Yeah, do it for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to be having more coverage, and I think it's fair for the club of this size to kind of get more public coverage. I plan on doing it. It's about the size of it, except for me.
All right, good stuff. You want me to stop your share?
Yeah, there you go. Because I have too much on my screen to try to figure out where it is.
No problem. All right, thank you, Dewan. Go ahead, Jim. Motown.
Sorry, there we go. We had a week off last week, and so we got back together and raced in Motown last weekend. And we had 3 classes: Formula One, which is the 80s Formula One, Group 5, and GT3. One of our biggest crowds ever. We had 20 drivers there. Excuse me, 19 of which participated in Formula One. And our Formula One is broken down into NSR and Scale Auto. Those are the 2 cars that are legal. You do have to run an NSR motor in your Scale Auto car if you just choose to run a Scale Auto car, so the drivetrain is exactly the same. And it's kind of split. Interestingly enough, the A main was all Scale Auto cars, but there's quite a few NSR cars running as well. I didn't get a shot of the Group 5, and it's dominated by the BMW M1. Probably half of them are BMWs. And then the GT3 class, which is quite a variety. Scale Auto, Racer Sideways, NSR, and so forth. So great crowd. This is the 3rd race of the day. The first 2 races are run with qualifying to sort the heats, and then we run the heats, and we had 3 heats instead of the normal 2 because we had so many drivers. And because of that, we only had 12 people stay around for the last class. The 3rd class of the day is always a round robin. So first 2 classes, we qualify and run mains, and then for time issues, we run the 3rd class as a round robin. So it's a tough crowd. Herman finally got a win in F1 after 2 years of trying, and Braden finished 2nd. Ian was 3rd. I was about 2 feet behind Ian, so I missed the podium by about 2 feet. So, like I said, it's a tough crowd if you go to Motown to race. The Group 5 results, all BMWs. Braden won. I was a lap back. Frankie was, I think, a couple laps back from that. Frankie was TQ after the qualifying was over. And then we went to the round robin, and Braden got out on the track first with his NSR Corvette and blazed the cars really fast. And then I got on the track. I think I was on the track with him 1 or 2 lanes, but for the most part, we didn't race together because of the round robin. And I was about a tenth of a second lap faster than him throughout the race. So I ended up winning by about a lap. So that turned out pretty good for me. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't resist mentioning that that's my podium print.
Is that somebody else did that? Is that your file?
That's my design for sure.
Okay, yeah. One of the local guys printed it. I didn't know that was your file, but so thank you and the people that printed it.
It's good to see it.
I'm going to have him, or I'm not going to have him. I suggested that he paint the sides one color and then highlight the letters or the numbers in another color. So I think he's working on painting it. He just had it printed, so it looks really good. As I said, we've got 3 different cars on the podium by Aston Martin's, the Racer Sideways, NSR Corvette, Scale Auto Viper. So we do have a good variety in GT3 and manufacturers. We do, like Formula One, you're required to run an NSR angle winder motor in whatever car you choose. So very similar to Electric Dreams, the drivetrains are identical, but you can run a variety of different cars. And because one day's not enough, I decided to go HO racing the next day with HO Frey style T-Jets. If you're not familiar with those, these little suckers are $250 a piece. And they're made in the 60s. But they're a lot of fun to run. And there is a huge Frey contingent across the country in various places. The big races, the Frey in Ferndale, coming up in March. And some of the guys from Ferndale, which is about 300 miles from us, came down to race with us. This is a special race called Joe Geigel Day. And Joe Geigel is one of our friends that races with us. I'm not sure why that's actually started. At one point, the gentleman that owns this track, Mitch Walder, said, we want to remember Joe. And Joe's not dead. Joe's just another racer. So it sounded like a memorial, but it wasn't. So Joe Geigel Day happens every December. And the feature race was on the black track. In this location, there's also a blue Frey track, a green Frey track, and a tan Frey track. So there's 4 tracks at this one specific location just outside of Sacramento, California. So that's my weekend. We had a crazy long weekend with HO and 32nd scale and so on, but a lot of fun. So we had to make up for missing a week with Thanksgiving. So that's it for me.
Good.
There's a one of the guys in that started a race with our 132nd club is just trying to find racing all over the place. He's doing as much different scales as he can find, and he's also getting into the HO stuff. And I asked him, hey, are there any HO groups in this? Because I know there's an HO group in the Seattle, Tacoma, Puget Sound.
There is.
But I don't know how to find them. Like they're not online anywhere. It's totally like
I can. There's a website. There's a YouTube channel called Slot Car Crazy.
Okay.
And he's based in Yakima, but he would know.
Okay. I'll see if he can point me somewhere. Because
Slot Car Crazy.
If there's Frey style HO in this area, I would.
There is some. I know the guy from Slot Car Crazy races Frey cars.
Yeah.
And so there is some. I'm not sure how widespread it is. There's some in Portland.
I was going to say, I know the guy that I was talking about does it in Portland. So I know.
Did you go over to the 24 hours and spectate for a while?
No.
Because the gentleman that actually started the Frey, Richard Phillips, was up there. He got invited, so he went up and raced in the 24 hours.
I probably saw him, but I didn't.
Well, you probably met Richard Phillips at Wisconsin, but
yeah, I'm terrible with names. So, and I didn't glad hand everybody there. So yeah, I've probably seen him. In passing, literally. But yeah, I'll see if I can find if he knows of any in the if it's in Seattle, Tacoma, or hey, I'm not gonna go down to Portland.
Yeah, I know there is. I know there is some. I'm not sure if they race Frey in the Seattle area, but they do race HO.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, good stuff, Jim. And Dewan, you put your hand back up. Do you want to do something else? No, I'll lower your hand again. Don't click it unless you want me to call on you. Or maybe I didn't do it right, so I'll take the blame on that one. Okay, I don't see anybody going, me, so the floor is open.
Me.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I went racing this past weekend going to do a screen share if I can find it on my phone. Gosh, where is it? Tap, then press share, and then press screen. I've done it before, but it takes a while for me to wake up on this. So yes, this is the latest digital disco race that we did. This is the National Slot Car Centre, also known as Rockingham Slot Car Club, and this is the layout that we've used it many times now. It's been up. They've been setting this up since about 2018, I think.
Oh, sorry, Wayne. Sorry to interrupt. Was this the race you were talking about last week?
About going to, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this it?
This is the venue.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And I'm showing a few different pictures of the fresh. I took them this weekend of the way that the place is, and where you can see there that where the lane changes are, where the drivers stand on the right there. That's race control off in the distance. And this is what you do next when you've come down that main straight. This can catch a few people out because that little right part there is quite tight, depending on which lane you're in. Then you ignore that one. Went up there round the and I think that's actually Alan. Yes, it is. Look, Alan sat ready to marshal. The only person in the building at the time, I think, probably, because it was quite early on. I took these. Pit lane over there on the far left, which is accessible by people stood or sitting on those chairs. Yeah. Then you go around that right-hander and away towards the entrance door. There's a lane changer in the middle and a couple on the exit of that turn. Then you shoot underneath. And you come from the right-hand side into this 90-degree left-hander. Big stop going into there because you come underneath down a relatively long straight. Probably not the longest, but yeah, very long. And then you shoot away on another very long straight. Several power supplies on the track, one of which is down there, look. Some interesting stories connected to those power supplies. Then you're away back towards the race control and underneath another bridge into a uphill left-hand section that's like this. You come from the underside and you go left, and up the hill, and more changes there. Round the Red Bull, which you'll probably see more of in a little while. Yes, you will. That's why it's called the Rock Bull Ring. It's the Rockingham Red Bull Ring, if you like. Although it bears no resemblance.
Oh, wait, this track has 2 bridges?
Yep.
So it's not even lanes.
Even lanes, it's not even a consideration, quite honestly.
I mean, it's a thing. I always find it humorous when a track has more bridges and still doesn't bother evening out the lanes.
Well, if you take an overview of the circuit, I mean, this is back. Race control is on your left, and you're heading back towards the driver's stand. Let me complete the lap, and I'll just go back to the overview, which it's essentially a clockwise circuit, and this bit here is the donut. If you want to think of it in those terms, this is the long left. This is a 360-degree, nearly 360-degree left that constitutes a donut in many ways. So you've got this S, and then you've got then you set off down the main straight, which is not straight. It's got that kink part way down it, which adds another challenge. And yeah, you can see now we've got some more people in the room, and we've got some controllers. I think practice may be underway already at this stage. Lots of driver stations. I think we can actually fit more drivers than there are coloured patches on that wooden area. There are 8 of those for the 8-lane wood track that's underneath the green paper. We've got a wiring loom there that I think accommodates up to 12 drivers. So we can run as many as 12 on this. I don't know if I've ever seen it with 12, but I've certainly seen it in double figures. And this is a look from the driver podium to the pit lane area. And we've got a TV screen on our left that's showing, another one on the far wall on the right that's showing, and there's another one that's visible to the drivers on at the pit lane that's above your head. That's a TV screen, and then you can't see it here, but to the right of that door on the right side of the picture, there is a projection that is a huge result screen, always live all the time. Better look at race control. And now, before the goes kind of go a bit wonky and out of order, this is a slotted Orica, the LMP2 car that I raced on Sunday. It's I don't know much about where the livery comes from, but clearly it's a decal set and it's a home created. It's in stock configuration. And the important thing that makes this an LMP2 car and not a hypercar or LMP1 is the fact that the flat six motor is that way up with a hole in the motor can upwards. For the most part, everything else is the same. There are strict regulations about how these are constructed, what parts you can use, what parts you can't use. I don't know them all because the formula uses this chassis only. And there is another body shell that fits this chassis. It's also a slotted, obviously, and it's the Acura. So this chassis fits two body shells, like I say. And in the WEC race on Sunday, there were 8 cars, and 2 of them were LMP2. Anyhow, yeah, that's just a photo I took of the circuit, which is actually called Mega Monster. And I don't even think I ever realized it was called Mega Monster. And it was built for that World Championships in 19. There's some of the screens now. I'm going to ignore the screens for the most part. I'm having a quick squint now at tech inspection, where we've got a couple of individuals checking different parts of the car. Body shell weights, all up weights, track widths. That's about all, really, for the most part. Some really pretty homemade cars in the field. I mean, I think one of these body shells might be a production one, probably that one. I'm not sure. Don't think this one. This was a white kit, I know that much. This one is the first time I've seen a Scale Auto Cadillac body shell. And that's our car there. Don't actually know what this one is. It's the LMP2.
That's an Orica.
It has to be the Orica, so it's the other LMP2 car. And this was a Scale Auto Porsche 963 that another team had done. There was quite a few of the 963s. This one was Sports Car Racing. This one was, what was the team called? Nick, Tuck, and Dave, 3 drivers that ran it. This one was the Monkeys, the London Club, 3 drivers running that one, I think. LMGT, this one. This is a Ferrari. It's done lots and lots of events. It keeps coming out. It runs really well. It's 2 individuals from different clubs. They call themselves the Lone Gunmen. And that was the other LMP2. That was being driven by a rookie. There was a rookie driver in that team and 2 experienced ones. That was very easy to spot at the time. 2 drivers driving this one. This one's another LMGT. I think it's a sideways Ford GT body, but the chassis is homebrew. It's basically slotted pod base, but I can't remember who made the chassis base plate. This is another very successful car. It's won several events in the past. It keeps coming and going. You know, it keeps coming to these events. It always runs well. Now we've got a number. We're going to end up seeing a number of these screens. For the most part, you can ignore them because they were me taking notes. But now we're underway. I don't know whether I want to play the videos because I don't think they'll convey very well. But I did get one in this orientation that I put onto YouTube as a short. And you can see that on my YouTube channel if you wish to go and have a squint at it. It's only about a minute long. There's my teammate. That's Bert. And he came all the way from Belgium to race. He brought as you know, I spoke to you about it. He brought the cars. And and go on to the results of the WEC by the look of things. We've got the race-winning cars in all three categories there. So the Monkeys won Hypercar LMP1 with their Cadillac. LMP2 was won by myself and Bert. And the Exiles, who run the Ford GT there, was first in LMGT. There were only two cars in those two back categories, so yeah, the win was accessible. That's the same photograph. This was the top three in overall. So we got a hypercar first and second, and that was sports car racing that was second, and then Bert and I were third overall with the first place in LMP2. This was the worst of the damage that was experienced by any of the teams on the day, that's as far as I'm aware. And then we've got a couple of photographs of race winners here, trophy presentation. That was sports car racing, Gary, Nick, and Martin. That was the representation from. That's Matt Tucker, and he was one of the drivers in the, can't remember the name, Nick, Tuck, and Dave team. So yeah, then we've got some trophies being presented. Oh, these were the lone gunmen. Two of these were the lone gunmen, and they added a third driver for the WEC on the Sunday. I didn't get the photographs of the presentation for Saturday's race because someone else took those, and there you go. This was the LMP2 car. That guy's Tom. He's done the Le Mans 24 Hours with us a few times. A well-known face to us. There's John and Jonathan, Exiles, winners in LMGT. And there's myself and Bert picking up the trophy for first place in LMP2. And this was a homegrown chassis underneath the car belonging to the Monkeys. Most of the cars were running on aftermarket chassis. Most of the Scale Auto cars were running on aftermarket chassis. And this particular team, I think it's that guy in the middle, Mark, that creates their chassis. He's obviously got skills in CAD or a 3D printer, I'm not sure, but yeah, that's Alan, Mark, and Graham, the race winning team. Yeah, you can see it's angle winder based. And what did I get from? Did I get anything from? That's all Sunday and World Endurance Championship. I got one or two relevant photos from Saturday's race. Saturday's race was two 90-minute races. And this was the grid formation of 7 cars. There were 8 on Sunday, 7 on Saturday. And what have you got here? You've got a McLaren 720 second on the grid on the pole. I think it's definitely a sideways Lamborghini. There's another McLaren there, I believe. There's a Scalextric AMG body shell on an aftermarket chassis there. Don't know too much about it. That is a slotted Audi body shell on a chassis and motor pod made by Pro Speed, available from Shapeways. I can't remember what the two back ones are. The biggest problem I had with these cars this day was the fact that there were so many orange ones that you didn't know who to blame when they crashed into you. So, I got one of the outstanding moments was when I called out, "Hey, come on, you can't just drive into the back of another competitor like that." And some of the drivers on the podium asked me, "Who was it?" And I went, "The orange one," and everyone laughed. So that was the car we raced on Saturday, slotted Audi, and it sits on. This is a sideways print. A shapeways print. Like I say, Pro Speed chassis, Pro Speed motor pod. Basically, a slotted body shell on what I would describe as a very NSR looking chassis. And that's the pictures I've got from the weekend.
I went ahead and dug up the link to the short that he mentioned and put that into the chat if anybody wants to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We had a pretty sorry time in the GT3 racing ourselves because we did 2 races and we were at the back of the field. certainly last in the first race, and then I think next to last in the second one. And then on Sunday, our fortunes turned completely around, and we got a car in with the LMP2 car that was, it's the first time I've driven the LMP2 cars since they changed the regulations. The regulation change that occurred about two years ago now was that instead of, you could now install the motor in angle winder config instead of strictly inline. And the only time I ever drove one in inline was in 2017. And that was the very first big disco race I ever did. And it was around Le Mans. And at the time, the inline flat six motor cars were fast, but very, very difficult, very, very tiresome. To my very, very difficult anyway, let's put it that way, to run. So LMP2 seemed to wane in popularity. And now it's got a different configuration. It's got the angle winder configuration, and it's so restricted on what you can use. You can basically only use those two cars. They're identical chassis, spec components. It makes disco digital racing very accessible. It's like you just buy the car, fit the tires, and go. Get the right gear ratio. Obviously, you're going to need a few parts for that potentially. But they're very, very good to drive, and you can actually run around with the LMP1 cars for the most part. It was really surprised me how little difference there was based on having the motor the other way up. The LMP1 cars have the hole in the motor facing the rails, and the accepted theory is that gets you more magnetic traction from the motor. I guess that there's not much difference between having the hole down and hole up, because a well-working LMP2 car would easily get ahead of an LMP1 that isn't, I think, now. So they'll run together and they look identical almost. And it's difficult to know whether you're running against another LMP2 or a hypercar unless you know. And for the most part, because there were only 8 cars there, the lap time is about, I'm going to say, between 13 and 14 seconds if you're running on the pace. We did 6 hours and we scored about 1,200 laps, something like that. I have got a picture of the results. Anyway, the top 3 were covered by 11 laps.
Isn't Gary still writing the 2025 Disco rules?
I don't really know the answer to that. Someone is still writing the 2025 Disco rules.
I mean, him and Tamar are working on it, but they haven't published them.
As far as I'm aware, they haven't published them.
It's conceivable that after that kind of showing, they might alter some of the rules for the LMP1 class so that.
Well, the LMP1 is no longer. It's not actually probably not already called hypercar.
Yeah.
So it's probably a title change. The regulations on that are the most open of all. You can pretty much build what you want, and a lot of people take that opportunity. LMP2 is buy one of these and go with that.
Yeah, but you were saying that at this past race, weren't there people running LMP1 cars?
Yeah, lots. Most of the field there was 2 GTLM and 2 LMP2, so that made up 4 of the 8. So there must have been 4 hypercars.
Yeah. So basically, you're saying that the LMP1 and LMP2 were competitive with one another,
and that's not a problem.
I mean, what's the point of having 2 classes then?
Well, the point is that if you have the nous to be able to build a better slot car than a slotted Orica, then you can go ahead and do so.
So do you not think that anybody there had built a better car?
Oh yes, they had, definitely. So okay, I did mention that the field was covered by 11 laps, or the front 3 in the field.
Over how long though?
Over 6 hours.
Yeah, that's nothing. Nothing.
It's nearly nothing. But the truth is that the quickest hypercars were significantly quicker than the LMP2.
Okay.
The reason that the field was covered by, or the top 3 were covered by 11 laps is because people don't always get that mixture correct. when they try and make a better car than a production car. And one case in point there that he was very obvious was the way that that body shell got broken up. Now, I don't know exactly what they'd done with that body shell, but it was the only one that got broken up that way. All the teams, in fact, even ourselves finishing in third place, we knocked our rear wing. We had our rear wing off the car on 2 occasions. So we had to pit and put that back on.
I know a guy.
Exactly. He's going to become very useful, Jeremy. Actually, you know what you do, you know what it is. It's the slotted Orica on the Acura. If you could do those, I'm sure I'd be able to move a few over here from time to time, but that's all. So yeah, everybody had issues that meant the cars were in pit lane. One car, the sports car racing car, I remember they had a situation where their rear axle had locked, and they were disassembling and reassembling the rear end of their car. I don't know whether that was just a grub screw that came loose and the spur gear moved away from the bearings. Somebody told me that one of the rear axle bearings had popped out of the motor pod, and that they had to basically reassemble the rear axle to get it all back together, but it was all the same components. They also had a situation where they were replacing the tape on the underside of their motor, which has to be insulated by regulation, and that was it had peeled back, and it was basically dragging on the track and lifting the back of the car, and I think they had to do that more than once. There was another issue that affected the monkeys, although it might have happened while I was driving, because I don't remember watching them repair their car. Of course, while you're not driving, you're marshalling, so it depends on where you're marshalling as to what you see. But I was actually marshalling not too far from the pit lane. So when things were taking place adjacent to the track at pit lane, I did get it was in the corner of my eye sort of thing. So I did see some of that going on, but you can't stand up, walk over, and look over their shoulder to see what it is they're actually fixing, because you've still got a corner to marshal.
Wait, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
You said you have LMP2 and hypercar, which were different. So the only difference was the motor turned upside down?
No, the whole
that's okay. But they're different specifications.
It's the primary difference.
Okay, but that's not really my question. My question was, could you run a 963 in LMP2?
No.
If it met the technical, or did you have to run the body for the hypercar?
No, the LMP2 is buy yourself a slotted Orica or a slotted Acura, and that's your car.
So the body had to be an LMP2 as well. You couldn't just change. You couldn't make a 963 into a LMP2 car.
No, because it has to be an Acura or Orica 07 or an Acura. And it has to be the slotted one, and it has to be on the slotted chassis. So the regulations are very much tighter, but it's very much more prescriptive. That's the words. But it does mean that you can just buy your car off the shelf and fit the handout motor, which it's already got in it. I think it's already got a flat 6 in it. But you will get one.
I guess on the contrary, could you run an Orica in hypercar?
Yes, you could. And the only thing you would immediately think to do is turn the motor over, but then you might wish to run different wheels and things like that. But I haven't seen the LMP2 regulations, so I'm not fully aware of exactly how prescriptive they are. I don't know if the wheel has to be a solid centered wheel or whether you can change it for an air style wheel and things like that. I don't know because I haven't seen the regs.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the bodies had to match the name of the class.
Oh, you mean no? If you wanted to take a body shell that was strictly an LMP2 car and take it into hypercar, then you could. You could take the Acura, you could take the Orica, you could use them in the hypercar. I think the name for the class, strictly speaking, should be hypercar / LMP1, because they're not going to say you can only run hypercars. Because they're not going to.
We're doing that. We're going to do a hypercar class, and it's only the current hypercars.
And that means that you're pretty much looking at Scale Auto and A71. Is that it? And that's all.
It's pretty much Scale Auto only. Nobody else that I know of makes a hypercar.
TA-71.
Well, we don't count 3D because we don't allow them at all. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. In terms of mass market manufacturers, you are looking at one brand only, and that's fine.
It's like Group C. Our Group C class has to be slotted. There's other Group C cars out there, but it has to be slotted for us.
Well, I'm looking for. I mean, I know what I want to do next. Gio, Yona, and I have been in discussion since we raced together in June at the Paul Ricard race constantly. We've got one coming up at the end of January. We know what we want to do. We made a decision back in June what we want to do. We're on the path towards that. But on this occasion, I basically replied to a forum post that said, I want to come and race in England. I'm equipped with the cars and the controller, and I would like a teammate. And I know how difficult it can be to find a teammate when you are in that position, even though I'm already in the UK and I know most of the UK drivers, I struggle. Now, some stranger from Belgium is going to struggle probably even more than I. And I decided to pair with him so that he could fulfill that desire successfully. And so I've made a new acquaintance. I'd actually already raced against him because I raced against him at Paul Ricard, but there were a dozen teams of 5 people there, so there were a lot more people to not meet, if you know what I mean, or to get to know. This weekend there were probably only 16 people in the room, and I know them all. And quite honestly, it felt a little quiet because I have been there for the same event at the same time of year, and there's been 11 and 12 drivers. It's been full, and I regret the fact that it's not as full as it used to be. We'd like that to change. We think, I mean, there's all kinds of hypotheses, but we think that the absence of the Le Mans 24-hour being in England has actually resulted in a waning of the desire to do digital racing in the UK. It certainly appears to be a little bit quiet right now. There's a move afoot to try to grow it back up again next year because there's been a championship announced that's multi-venue, that's for all GT3 racers, and it's for solo entrants, single drivers, which is new because I've never done any digital racing that's not for teams. So hopefully the fact that you can enter it alone, certainly it'll suit me. Hopefully it'll suit a lot of other people, and it'll bring out more people to come and partake in bigger digital races. But we had a good time. It was an enjoyable race. The driving standards were on the whole pretty good, even though I've told you about one incident. It was pretty much the only incident that really perturbed me all weekend. I heard of a couple of others, but no one ended up in the pits because of naughty driving standards. Even the rookie did a good enough job that he wasn't a problem to anyone, and he's had his first experience, which is always a baptism of fire. And next time he comes back, he'll be better. That's just the law. So it's the next one for me is end of January, which is close to my birthday, which is a bit of a treat for me when I go over to Eindhoven to race on Suzuka again.
Is that the beginning of a 2025 series of some sort, or is that just
No, it's not part of a series. It's a one-off standalone event. It's the same format as we did at the weekend with the GT3 races on Saturday and the WEC on Sunday. I mean, I've told you about the races. There were actually qualifying sessions and practice sessions for both. So there's a full timetable. But it's in Suzuka they call it the double digital, but it's the same format that we're using here. So it's reasonable to call it the Rockingham double digital if you wanted to. But yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for listening. That's me for now. And we've got 30 minutes left, which is unusual, isn't it?
Yeah. Wayne's going to let you guys talk for a bit.
Wayne, why are they only doing that slotted Orica 7? Like, is it just like somebody is really fascinated with that as a class, or like why did they settle on that slotted class as the only thing you can run?
I don't know.
Mix that up. Then when
I can hypothesize, but I don't really know the answer. I think it's because of the close relationship that we necessarily have with Slotted, because we are using their digital system, Oxygen.
Okay. That makes
They
sense.
are frequent sponsors of all the big events that.
Well, the real class is like that too. It's pretty much a spec class.
The real cars.
In real life, LMP2 is pretty much a spec class.
Yeah. I mean, as far as
isn't it?
There's multiple classes, right? So there's the class where people can build to their heart's content, pretty much within with some limitations, and then there's the buy it and run it class, which is what that happens to be. And the easiest way to achieve parity with a buy it and run it class is to basically do a one make class. In this case, it happens to be two cars that have the same chassis, two different bodies. But then you can just, like what happened this weekend with Wayne's, teammate. You buy the car, race the car, boom, you're done. And then there's the GT, and there was also GT3 or whatever class at the same race, right?
Yeah, it was. You see, that's going to change as well, because in full size, in reality, the 2024 Le Mans was not run with GT Le Mans cars. It was run with GT3 cars. And our race series will reflect that. So the cars that we race Saturday with a motor change will be able to race in WEC in future.
Yeah, but the point is, it's not, if you want to participate in that event, you're not limited to just those two cars. If you want to participate in that event in that class, you're limited to those two cars.
That's right, yeah.
You choose to run either of the other two classes that are being run at the same time on the same track in that event.
And quite honestly, you don't really want a car category that goes around the track a lot slower than any other, or vice versa. You don't really want one category of car that goes a lot quicker, because it's a recipe for lots of interactions between cars that just get ugly. You don't want anybody running around that demoralized because the only thing that happens is everybody comes and passes them.
No, I understand that, but I was just curious how it wound up getting settled on. I mean, there's a lot of slotted cars that, at least personally, I think run much better, or are easier to drive or more. Like, that's the one car I would never have picked to have a class around. But I was just curious how it landed on that one.
That car is their latest LMP car. It's a completely different chassis.
So it's basically just that's their LMP, and so we're gonna go with that as our LMP. That was.
Well, they've done lots of LMP cars in the past. They've even done four-wheel drive ones, but they've had that thing. They've had features in some cases like that LMP guide that nobody really liked.
Yeah.
And
I think part of it too is to replicate real racing, because you've got the hypercar class, and the LMP class is, like I said, in real life, it's a spec class. So I think part of it is to replicate real racing.
Absolutely,
what real racing looks like.
It is, and that's why we. There was a time when the slot car racing was essentially a long way behind the real life racing. I think it used to have regulations that kept it. I mean, I can remember in 2017 there was 2016. I went to watch the race in 2016, and I saw NSR Moslers, and I don't think that ran at Le Mans for a long time at that point. In 2017, I don't think a Mosler had ever, not ever, but had not run in Le Mans for a long time. So they were the timescale went back a long way in slot car terms compared to what ran in reality. And it's only in recent times, the Aston Martin Lola that I featured in the videos I made on my channel that ran Le Mans in 2010. Well, that's not legal anymore because we've brought the rules forward. So now there are cars that are too old for us to use in World Endurance Championship. Another regulation we have in World Endurance Championship that we don't have in GT3 is that your livery must be a real livery. And you don't enter your chassis, you enter the body shell and the livery. So when you enter the team, you'll say, we're going to run
Well, if you have to run a real livery, do you have to pay a licensing fee to that company? Because otherwise, that's not a real livery. That would be my argument.
No,
So-
by real livery, you're basically then limited to the production body shells, which are essentially, most of them are real liveries. You can't run in, all the LMP ones all the LMP body shells tend to come in real liveries. They don't come in fantasy liveries. It looks like our LMP2 had got a fantasy livery on it, unless it's not a fantasy livery, and I just don't know that. But we do have regulations that say when you run a real livery and you enter the livery and body shell, what you run underneath it is up to you when you're in hypercar, and what you run underneath it must be a slotted chassis when it's LMP2. What you run underneath your GT3, I don't know the regulations. Traditionally, it is production parts only, so you can't 3D print for that.
So your entry would be the Hertz Joda 963.
Exactly, which is the gold one, is it not?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, if you remember last year, Geo did the Porsche one with the rainbow colours that went over the top and down one side of it, which was a real livery that wasn't a production livery, but it's just been released by Scale Auto. So we were like running that livery a year before. It was a real livery, so we're allowed to paint it, but you can't.
Jeremy, what's your objection to the slotted Orica?
I've seen a few guys in our club run it. It just doesn't seem that good. I don't know.
Really?
Compared to all the other LMP cars we run, but I mean,
what LMP cars do you run besides it?
I don't know. Off the top of my head, I'd have to pull a full list of all of the LMPs, but
I found it to be as quick
to
as
other slotted. I know that this is for LMP, but I'm like, like the Nissan from the 93 Nissan,
this Group C car.
That's such a nice handling car compared to the Orica when I see it out there. And now we race stuff like that altogether, but I know that they're trying to stick to more modern, stuff that would have run together. I don't know. I was looking at it and I was thinking about a wing, and I was like, I don't even own one. So I would never buy one yet. It just doesn't do anything for me. But each his own.
Well, I've had eyes on that car in detail now. I know some of where its origins lay. I know where some of its influences come from. It is a complete departure from the slotted LMP cars of the past. It's got features on it like a place to put your hall sensor. It's the first chassis I've seen from Slotted that's actually got a proper place for a hall sensor built into it. You just tuck it in a certain spot. For example, that's got it. You see, that's even newer though. That's that car that Mike just showed is an even newer car than the Oricas, isn't it? Didn't you just show us a flat 6 monoposto? You're mute at the moment, Mike.
It's at least 4 years old. It was way before the Orica was put out.
Okay, I didn't know you got a clip on it then at that point.
Yeah.
Not knowing my F1s.
Yeah.
But
not a lot of people run them, but all of the 4 chassis that I've got, and I've got some. I bought one right away. So it was there in the beginning, and a lot of their cars, they just put the hole there and set it up for it. So
yeah, okay,
it works really.
It was the first car.
The first slotted car I got with that I can recall was the DTMs. When they first released the DTMs, Alpha, the very first Alpha had the hall sensor hookup.
Really, that's quite a while ago because they've had 2 different Alphas, haven't they?
I know for sure the what's the other DTM? The
Mercedes?
No, the low wide one.
The Opel?
The Opel, yes. The Opel definitely does. I'm pretty sure the Alpha does too, but they've been doing it for a few years.
Okay. Of course, not having experienced those either, apart from having driven a Mercedes at Slot Festival a year ago. I haven't had hands on those because I don't race the category. But I thought that was I thought that was a relatively new feature. There are other things in that car. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it may even have little places for grub screws that sit up against the body shell, so you can get the body shell to sit completely flat and square, and things like that that you just didn't see in Slotted cars before. And if I'm not mistaken, they may have changed the way that the body screws are configured on the car. I think it's 2 at the front and 1 at the back, where it's never been like that before.
Okay, so on that, it's hard to see because of your background. On one side of that chassis, ahead of the motor, is there 2 little slots?
Head of the motor.
Yeah, forward of the motor.
It'll be on one side and not the other.
Go ahead and hold it up again. A little bit closer. Try to get the shine on it. Yeah, there it is. So you see those 2 little holes on the side with the CCE imprint? Those are where I believe that's where the hall sensor goes. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
You see, you wouldn't know that's what that was unless you were installing an oxygen chip.
Yeah, it just looks like another bizarre chassis.
Yeah.
Molding mark of some sort.
Yeah. All right, Jim, what would you like to throw in?
I have something I want to ask everybody and share. Before I throw it up, I'm not throwing this out for debate on what's better. I'm working on a video for Car of the Year. I just want to see if I forgot anything, not to discuss, unless you want to, what the winner should be. So this is what I've got for the nominees right now: the Thunder slot, the Regal slot, the NSR Corvette, the 963, and the Acura. So those right now on the video I'm working on. Is there anything I forgot on that list other than the MR slot car Corvette? Because I'm holding that till next year because it hasn't been released yet and may or may not be released by the end of the year. And typically my criteria, it has to be a new car, not just a new livery. So that's what I've got. Is there anything anybody else has that they think should be there?
Well, because I know what I would vote for, I cannot bring. I could drop another name, but it wouldn't be Car of the Year. It's a new one.
Well, that's what I'm looking for. Is if I missed anything for Car of the Year that you think should be on here? That's the question.
Just put it out there, Wayne. What were you thinking?
It won't have the mass appeal. It wouldn't get the votes. It was the sideways Ferrari.
Just say the name.
The what?
The sideways Ferrari.
Okay, yeah. I don't consider that because it doesn't have a livery. I didn't say that, but I don't really. I wouldn't give a Car of the Year to a car that doesn't have a livery.
Yeah, that's fine.
Which is why we didn't do the 963 was out last year in a white kit, so I held the 963 over till this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Maybe the fantasy car will get something next year.
So I just want to see if there's anything I missed that was obvious.
I assume the Scalextric Thunderbird pink giant thing is not going to qualify.
It's not. Yeah, I don't.
Oh.
I guess I should preface that, and I probably will when I do the video. I don't count Scalextrics in Carrera just because it's not something that I race.
And the Thunder slot Shelbys were last year, right?
At least, yeah.
Oh yeah, and the year before they were at Slot Festival for
I thought it's been a while.
me too.
I just got mine, so it's new to me.
I don't know. Well, isn't it?
That covers it.
I think.
Let me check the YouTubes. Maybe there's a YouTube commenter jumping up and down right now.
I think if YouTube if Scalextric or Carrera released, or even SCX released something that absolutely stood out for a reason that you can't really put your finger on, then it ought to be considered. But I just don't think they have.
Well, you're not just doing pretty cars, right, Jim? You're doing pretty.
No. Well, I may have a second category at the end of the video for the best looking car, which in my opinion probably is the Acura right now. And I may have like a manufacturer of the year with different criteria, but I'm just going for Car of the Year, which is to me is new cars.
Yeah. It's not as easy to put your finger right on it this year, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, I'm thinking about having a tie because in my mind, I know what I'm going to do because I've got the video half done, but it could be a co-championship this year.
What are your criteria in general? Just like which car is more popular, which one's
new car
the best in their class? Like what?
A little bit, but all these cars drive pretty well. So new car, what liveries are available? Other than that, it's kind of all in my mind. Last year it was the MR slot car Shadow.
Yeah, and it was easy to put your finger on.
To me, it was last year was pretty easy. This year is not.
You see, you know they slotted Maserati that Mike has showed us earlier in the show. Considering that that's out in, I know you haven't, it doesn't follow the criteria for you because it hasn't got a livery. But bearing in mind that if they produce those in lane colours, they could very easily become club cars all over the place. Because if they're resilient enough, and that's why I asked about the rear wing, then they're a fantastic candidate.
That could be a whole different category, actually. You know, whatever. I don't know what that category would be, but it could be a whole different category. Product of the year, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that once that people catch on to those, because they'll run well.
Yeah,
if they've got the resilience.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. There's not 2,000 people here, so my thinking right now is probably going to be the 963, but I'm probably going to give it to Scale Auto for the 963 / hypercar series, because the Peugeot and the Cadillac are out, not yet in deliveries, and the BMW is on the way. So they've kind of created a whole new category of cars, and I think it's spectacular for them to do that. And they're getting them out as soon as they can. The Cadillac should be out anytime now with the livery. Who knows about the Peugeot? The BMW is supposed to be out around the first of the year. So I'm kind of thinking going that way, giving it to the 963, but to Scale Auto hypercar series as a whole.
I think John Weber was making a good point that Carrera's NASCAR, modern NASCAR, are. I mean, they're obviously not performing for Carrera cars. They're new this year, and they got liveries, and they're going to be popular.
That is a good comment. Yep. So if I go back on because I haven't announced anything yet, I can go back on my decision and put Carrera and Scale Electrics in it, and that one specifically, because that's a big step forward for slot cars in general, being able to have that NASCAR branding and everything else. So that's a good point.
I don't know how many. I don't know how many people have seen those models. How many of you have seen the models?
And 43rd scale too. They have them in both scales.
Excuse me?
They have them in 43rd scale also.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, Don has his there. They came out with 4 liveries initially of this Camaro, and Carrera makes a Mustang, a GT.
It's not a NASCAR though.
What's that thing called? Yeah, it's not a NASCAR, but wouldn't be. But the detail on these models is probably better than anything I've seen Carrera do, and maybe anything that I've seen Electric do.
And that's why I threw that out. That's a really good suggestion, quite honestly. The only thing I have against the Carreras is they're only Camaros. If you're into RC racing, the company called Losi, which is a nationwide company, they came out with the same thing basically, but they came out with the Mustang, the Camaro, and the Toyota all at the same time, and you can't find them. They're sold out everywhere.
It's a wise thing to do.
Ready to run RC car for $200 with full NASCAR sponsorship or NASCAR licensing.
Yeah, I mean, but how many slot car companies ever do multiple models and multiple liveries in the same year?
Darn few. Yeah, you're right.
They're starting to do them now. What was it I saw recently? They'd done all the lane colours. Was it one of the NSRs? They've done all the lane colours except what the green is missing. It's actually pink. Something like that. I saw 4 all at once.
They announced the colors for the new Lolas. The pink was one of them.
Lolas.
But those
the
are
NSR Lola.
Those are just plain colored cars, right?
Yeah, they are just plain colored cars.
The NSR has been doing that for years.
Have they?
Yeah, they always come out with their, what do they call them? They have a name for them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're making me blank. Yeah.
Test cars.
They did that with the Porsche 917. Came out in 4 colors.
They come out with a new model, and then it's boom, you get 4 or 5 different plain color cars right off the bat.
Except the Lolas are brand new colors for them. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
On the Thunder slot, Jim, the Ferrari came out. Now, it's basically the same chassis. It's just, you're getting a Ferrari now. But didn't it come with like a weaker motor or different motor or something? Does that like take away from your scoring, or you don't care? You're just like,
I wasn't aware of that, if it did, or it was just a replacement motor that will be an ongoing change.
I thought they replaced the motor recently and it's considered a little weaker, but I might be wrong.
There was some discussion about that on the forums.
Yeah.
That they didn't have screws in it and they put a cover over it. It wasn't, that was the difference in the replacement motor. It didn't have screws to hold it down to the chassis.
The guys that are running them here locally are just as fast as any other Thunder slot. So if they did change it, it didn't seem to affect the performance of it.
And they did come with that Gunston livery, which is pretty different than.
Yeah.
Is that the right model?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The Can-Am 350.
Yeah. Yeah. I normally don't buy two of one livery or one car. Unless it happens to be a Porsche that I'm really fond of. But that the Ferrari Can-Am with the Gunston livery is really tempting to me when they come out with that.
Nice. It's really nice looking.
Yeah, it is.
You see, we're already fully aware of one car that might actually make that list for next year, don't we? And that's the new NSR Classic. That might make the list next year.
So that's kind of a shoe-in to be on the list, as is the MR Slot Car Corvette.
Is the slotted Ford the one that's coming? Is it getting released now? On the 12th, is it, or something? I thought I could be wrong. Or yeah,
the Scale Electrics.
No, the Slotted. Slotted has their own Datsun 5. Sorry,
Datsun 5. Yeah.
Is that coming out in a few days? I think maybe they're
supposedly.
Will that qualify, or that would be for next year?
Well, we've heard it's coming out many times now, so I'm gonna. And nothing against them, but we have heard it's coming out and it hasn't. So we'll see. But I kind of put that on the back burner.
What was the new NSR model?
Lola
T280. Lola T280.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But that's not till they say February or March.
Yeah, that's going to be later.
We'll know a lot more come May when they bring them all the new stuff to the Slot Festival, I'm sure.
The 1-to-1 T280, what kind of power plant did it use?
Cosworth V8.
Was a V8, DFV or something, DFX, whatever.
Yeah, variant of the DFV. And then the 290 was more like a 2-liter car, so it ran with BMW, it ran with Ford. I think there was something else it ran with too.
Alrighty, I guess I'm ready to go hit the stop button. You guys can just be more relaxed. No biggie. We've done it before. Everybody wave bye. Ending stream. Ending stream. Stream says bye. Okay. Bye-bye.